Dallas and Baltimore and relationship with this guy, but I'm finally coming to his town. I'm putting the flag down. He's not really from Las Vegas because other than Greg Maddux, who the hell is? We welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, now in Las Vegas and heard nationally all over the place on Fox Sports Radio, as well as my longtime friend. He has secretly brought the Raiders to Las Vegas. Folks don't know that, what a huge part of that he is. He is JT the Brick, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter or here. And, you and I get together, 3-4 times a year. We do some radio together. I do your show, you do my show, whatever. We've been known to bend an elbow together, have a meal together on the road. You're one of the few guys that I'm actually friends with that does this for a living, like in the real world. But we've never talked hockey, you and I. I don't know that we've ever had a hockey conversation. I think you're a Rangers fan, like old school, right? And you've lived in a couple of different places now with your career. But this Vegas thing, boy, you've landed there at the right time, Brick. I'll give you that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. I was born and raised an Islander fan on Long Island when they won 4 straight cups when I was in high school. And then, being on the radio for well over 20 years, we used to talk hockey a lot more on the national show from Detroit, Boston, and Canada, all those markets. But I was a little bit dormant as a fan. But now that this team's come here to Vegas where I live, I was able to cut the cord completely and jump on this inaugural expansion team, and I love everything about it. Not only did they go from a 500-1 underdog to a favorite in the Stanley Cup final, but they have this whole city on edge. All the season ticket holders, all the locals absolutely love this team, and it wasn't a tough reach to leave your team. I've talked to Blackhawk fans, Red Wing fans, L.A. King fans who are regional out here who said we had one chance to say goodbye to our team and join this team, and you'd be blown away how many local Vegas Golden Knight fans there are.
Well, and this is a prelude to the Raiders, right? Because all these Red Wing fans are Lions fans. All these Blackhawks fans are Bears fans. Right on down the line, it's such a transient community. That's always been the question about it. In addition to the gambling thing, and that, look, dude, that's for you and me. That's our third installment. What the hell is going on in this country with gambling and the Supreme Court and all that? But for hockey, for Vegas, it almost feels unfair to some degree. Because as an Islander fan for the last 35 years, you know how hard it is to win. Even when you had Bossy and Trottier and those guys back in that era, it wasn't easy in that era. And now 40 years later, you wonder where the next championship, kind of like my life as an Orioles fan as a kid. It feels very, very far-fetched that some team's going to show up in Portland next year and win a Major League Baseball title, But in hockey, the way this thing was structured, I don't think they gave Vegas any great edge to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, I really got to tip my cap to George McVie and how Fleury has played and how these guys have responded. It's an incredible story unto itself. If Barry Trotz and Ovechkin and the Caps curse and all that were not a part of this, the Vegas side of this, there's a movie to be written here if they win this Stanley Cup.
Absolutely. Again, it becomes, Nestor, one of the greatest stories in the history of sports, and that's not a reach. That's not one of the great stories. We're talking about a Mount Rushmore top 5 event. You can go back to the Miracle on Ice in 1980, Buster Douglas over Tyson. You could look at all the great upsets in sports history. This would be near the top of the list, if not at the top of the list. And one other thing you were talking about, the Raiders. It's interesting. The Raiders are coming here and they have a global fan base. But Chief fans and Packer fans, even if they're happy that the Raiders are coming, they're not going to leave their team. I want to make it clear again. Fans were able to cut the cord and join this team only because it was inaugural expansion. If this team moved from Arizona, from Canada, from Florida, like Atlanta going to Winnipeg, no chance they would have had fans, and fans would have got behind this team. The fact that McPhee and Gerard Gallant and the owner, Mr. Foley, had something brand new that people could really embrace was really the difference. And again, it's a couple of years in front of the Raiders, but Raiders owner Mark Davis sits behind the goal at every game with the Maloof brothers, who are part owners of the team, and he's embracing this. So with the Raiders coming in 2 years with John Gruden, we're going to see you out here for football games and Super Bowls. We could be talking about the Vegas Golden Knights with a Stanley Cup banner. Now, to get to the series quickly, Ovechkin's the best player in the world. and he's hot, and he's coming in. This is the first actual matchup that I like for Vegas because in the first round they swept the Kings, but that was a brutally tough series, 1-0, 2-1. I mean, that was a war. Then they played San Jose, which was really a physical team. Winnipeg, a very physical team. But I really think Vegas now has the advantage because of all their rest and their speed. You'd know better than me how the Caps deal with speed. They have not seen speed like this, I can promise you, especially in a venue like T-Mobile where their eardrums are going to explode before the game begins.
Give me the whole game experience thing there and how that has been so effective. I would just say this. I have 4 or 5 friends of mine, interior buddies who love hockey. 2 of them are Flyers fans. They've gone out at various points. They have brought it to me long before the Stanley Cup, that Vegas hockey thing was something, that they went to games in December and in January and February, and, the team had gotten off to a great start and whatever, but it's just another team with a great start. But boy, did they rave about experience, and I had a chance during the playoffs to watch, the whole sort of Knights of the Medieval Time thing and all that they do there, but it has really caught on to be an experience that we talk about that when you're in Vegas, you better have some glitz and some glamour with your hockey as well, right?
You and me have been to concerts together. We've been to epic events. Again, I'm not exaggerating to your audience. I've never seen anything like it. You're in a brand new arena that has a nightclub in the upper deck. Every bar, every restaurant is brand new. Every sight line is unbelievable. When you're in the press box, you will get there 10 minutes before the game starts to your seat. And the show that they put on is a Cirque du Soleil show with lights, and the place erupts. They put so much effort into this pregame that in the early rounds of the playoffs, it was the first time that NBC Sports Network said, we want to take the opening instead of taking the broadcast, 2 minutes before puck drops. So NBC is really going to enjoy these Vegas home games because the first 5, 6, 7 minutes, you feel like you're sitting in a theater getting ready for a Cirque show with guys getting pulled up in the air on pulleys and a medieval sword fight, and it starts in the upper deck and it ends on the ice, and it's classic Vegas the way it should be. And again, this team feeds. Ness, this team this year has won games 7-0, 4-3 in overtime, shootout wins, games that they're down 3-0 heading into the third period. I've seen this team win hockey games every possible way. And the big advantage is Marc-Andre Fleury. You talked about George McPhee building this team. There was no unfair advantage. Some of the media is getting it wrong. These were unprotected players, I repeat, and some really good unprotected Capitals who were not protected. McPhee put a team together with no vision of the playoffs or Stanley Cup, but something to build with. And I'll tell you, I've never seen a team in hockey this quickly look like they've played together for 6 or 7 years on offense. They're so fast, they're so electric, and they roll 4 lines, and the 4th line is as good as the first line on certain nights.
JT the Brick has been my friend. He will be my foe all week long. Boy, your kids are, they're all in on this, right? And
yeah.
I guess that was my point with the Raiders is when a team comes, look, I was an Oiler fan here, and the Ravens came. We were in the same division. I had to sort of, and they were the Browns players. I mean, there was still Vinny Testaverde and Derek Alexander running around, and Eric Turner and whatnot. So, I mean, I've experienced that from a heart standpoint and that heart transplant that has to happen. But for the community, for the kids, this, I think for the Capitals, and I've talked at length about what this means for them if they were to win the Stanley Cup, that this becomes more of a hockey community that I've always tried to cultivate over 4 decades here now of chronicling this. But in Vegas, the experience of doing this now becomes something where you think of Vegas as a hockey city the next 5 years. It certainly has bought them a chance to have that thing thrive in a way that it died in Atlanta, in a way that it was dying in Phoenix and other places. Because I don't know that you were bullish on it working, were you?
No, again, this was something that came out of nowhere. But there's 43 million tourists, 43 million who come to Vegas. 330,000 are here for Memorial Day as I'm talking to you from the Bellagio. And the place is erupting and big and strong. And the reason this is working again is because so many people are here to buy seats. And the season ticket holders got the 12,500 season tickets. So early on, I went to the Caps game, the Caps regular season game. And you saw 2,000 or 3,000 Cap fans because it was the first ever Caps game in Vegas. You wanted to be a part of that. Same with the Blackhawks, where they rolled 5,000 fans in. The Flyers, 5,000 fans in. But once this team got good and they got to the playoffs, everybody said, stop it. This is our team. Don't sell your tickets. Keep the tickets. And now you'll see when they're waving those flags for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, you'll see what's happening in the city. And I think the city's bulletproof for years to come because just of the amount of people, we'll have 2 million people living here. We'll have the 43 going up to about 50 million in tourists over the next 5 years. So it's going to be a tough ticket. I don't care if this team doesn't make the playoffs 2 years from now. Any businessman or woman who comes into town, anyone on vacation during hockey season are going to say, hey, remember that little expansion team that won the Stanley Cup?
Oh, whoa. That was in the Stanley Cup Finals.
No. Listen, I want to make this clear. This is not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. But I've never been more confident in a hockey team able to beat another hockey team than this 28-day rested Vegas Golden Knights. Their biggest issue is they got to wait a week between every round. They're hungry. I see the series this way. If Vegas wins Game 1, which they should on rest alone and energy and excitement, then the Caps have their back up against the wall. If Ovechkin can win Game 2, just get out of Vegas with a split, we're going to have a 7-game series. If you drop the first 2 in Vegas, I can promise you're not going to win Game 5 or Game 7 here. So you better get a split and take this back to D.C.
JT the Brick running the smack early and often from Las Vegas, where he will be entertaining me as well as all the eyes of the hockey world on all things Golden Knights and the Caps. We're rocking the red. Ed Frankovic and I will be out this week back and forth from Vegas to Washington. All right, Brick, last thing for you, and this is the most, forget all the hockey and all that nonsense. I need to make sure I have fun with this experience, okay? So best recommendations for Las Vegas. Give me 2 or 3 things everyone needs to do when they come there, and not the obvious stuff that I've already done.
MB Steakhouse at the Hard Rock's the newest Morton creation. Fantastic. It's got a rock and roll vibe to it. I think you'll like that a lot. Obviously, the casino's on the Strip. Everything is fantastic here on the Strip. I'm recommending, and I know you love this because you like to go off the beaten path, Old Las Vegas. Downtown Las Vegas is having a resurgence. And, hey, where I live, out at Red Rock, it wouldn't kill you. You're in good shape to get out there and have a hike, go on an hour hike at Red Rock Mountain, enjoy that, or head out to Hoover Dam, take a look at the beautiful dam, get on a helicopter tour from Vegas to the Grand Canyon.
My wife talked about that, by the way. My wife, that was the one thing. She's like, we've never done that. And, so I'm trying to get her out there for Game 5. She's been under the weather a little bit here in the early going, so we're having her rest up because we're going to need her late in the series, like Burakovsky or like Kuznetsov, But Game 5, she's talking, that's the thing she's talking about doing.
Yeah, and I think Game 5 is going to be unbelievable, and that's a game that a lot of fans, that's going to be the critical game. But Jen Strong, I'm Jen Strong.
Grand Canyon.
Hashtag Jen Strong.
That would be very Chevy Chase, her and I getting in a helicopter going over to Grand Canyon, I think.
I think it would be good. But you know this town. You're going to have fun. And again, as I always tell you, look on your phone or go online. I should be able to know it, but I don't have it off the top of my head. There'll be a concert, a residency show, something big. You like live music, you'll love to see a good show while you're out here and have a good time.
Celine Dion is going to be playing, from what I understand. And I just missed Air Supply. I'm, it's a tragedy.
My mom, my wife, and my nieces went to J-Lo. And look, I'd say, come on, a guy hooked me up. I got some J-Lo tickets. My mom walked out and said, and she's seen Streisand, and she's seen Cher, and she's seen Celine Dion. She said, best show she's ever seen in Vegas. I said,
J-Lo makes me sick. You know why she makes me sick? All right, this is why. Of all the people that, and I don't talk about this on the radio, I have no respect for her. I sat and watched the season that she was on American Idol judging, and then when it was her time to perform, she lip-synced. And how can I have any respect for you? So the reason your mom liked the show so much is your mom didn't realize she doesn't sing. Streisand actually sings. Celine Dion sings.
Not compare her.
Pat Benatar sings.
Barbara.
Janet Jackson does not sing. J-Lo does not sing. Madonna pretty much doesn't sing. Taylor Swift sings. So, like, you know, I like singers. You know, by the way, Mick's shaking his ass at 74 over in Europe. We screwed that up, didn't we, Brick?
I mean, my wife wanted to go see Mick and the Stones on this European leg. We were looking at it. But one other thing I want to commend you for, and to your audience, you stay on top of Peter Angelos, the Peter Principles. I love following you online and on Facebook because you were the individual, no one else, who told these fans a decade ago, if not more, free the birds, that this ownership group had nothing to do with winning, and they're continually embarrassing these great fans of Baltimore. How in God's name would anybody buy a lower bowl ticket to an Orioles game knowing that that management structure and that owner has no intention on winning there? They are disgraceful this year, and I love when you hammer the hell out of them.
Coming soon after the Stanley Cup, after we bring the chalice back, and I drink the champagne of Tom Ebright out of the chalice, then I shall return to the Free the Birds movement. I've already started to write the letters, and this traveling back and forth, I'm going to be 24 hours on a plane minimum here between now and the end of next week, just going back and forth to Vegas. I'm writing Dear Orioles letters, Brick, so they are coming for you. I'm starting with Dear Peter, Dear John, Dear Brady, Dear Buck, Dear Manny, Dear Chris, Dear John Scope, all the way down the line. They're all going to get a little handwritten letter from me before the All-Star game that was supposed to be in Baltimore, but is going to be in D.C. instead in 6 weeks. So I got plenty. The pen is getting sharpened here as we speak. I'm showing it right on Facebook Live and our YouTube. Well, Rick, I love you, man. Let's get a meal together.
Last thing on Ovechkin, and I'll let you go.
Okay.
Ovechkin, better not this off season, be ice fishing in Russia or out on a lake, telling his family, can you believe I got to the pinnacle of my life in the sport and I lost to an expansion team in the desert? This isn't the Blackhawks. This isn't the Kings. This isn't a powerhouse from Canada. If you believe in curses, and I don't, the curse of Ovechkin would be losing to an expansion team. It could happen. You better hope it doesn't, my friend.
Well, Brick, this narrative really began with Tortorella in the beginning and a comeback, and then the Pittsburgh thing, which was obviously Godzilla around here.
Right.
Then the next series, you get all these pesky Rangers, and you also get, Yzerman, Esposito, these guys that are the Mount Rushmore kind of guys. They get through that, and Ovechkin plays well, and they had this incredible comeback, after blowing games 3, 4, and 5. And now Fleury is in front of them again, right? So of all the guys that would come back and be the Wicked Witch of the West, if they were to lose this to Fleury, that would be the story. Be Fleury, Ovechkin can't beat Fleury.
Right.
And obviously McVie and what he's put together there as well. Hey, it's a great storyline. It's a great series. I think it's an evenly matched series. I don't think anybody's going out nighty-night in 4 or 5 games in this thing. It's going to be a lot of fun over the next 2 weeks. Back and forth from Vegas. Keep the Vegas tips coming, and Brick will continue to discuss this over the next couple weeks.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to seeing you out here.
JT the Brick, I'm going to be doing his show later on in the week as well, out in the desert and covering all things Golden Knights and the Caps. Ed Frankovic and I are in Vegas all week long. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. You can also find us out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Buckle up. It's a lot of hockey around here. We're telling stories. We're going to get a little Ravens in, a little Orioles in. And, of course, if there's any breaking news, you get that first on the WNST text service. And Dennis will be here on Thursday with the SSV on WNST. Even he's watching hockey. Everybody's rocking their red. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.